You think the air you breathe is a free commodity, but you are currently breathing on a divine loan that is being called to account at this very second. Welcome back to Radiant Mercy. My beloved child, you walk through the valleys of global instability, watching the stock markets of the world fluctuate while ignoring the true currency of your soul. You assume your survival is a product of your grit, your strategic maneuvers in the corporate ladder, or your sheer resilience against the geopolitical storms that batter your shores. But I tell you this, every second you remain upright is a subsidized grace you did not earn. You are currently operating on a credit line of mercy that you treat as a permanent asset. Yet you fail to realize that the volatility of the world is merely a background noise to the deep, tectonic shifts I am performing within your foundations. You wait for a macroeconomic signal of my presence, a stimulus package of miracles that forces your belief, while I have been working in the micro-transactions of your daily breath, quietly vetoing the disasters that were lobbied against your destiny by the shadows of your past. You have learned to adapt to an inner recession and called it maturity. You have normalized a spiritual inflation where your words have become debased and hollow, and yet you tell yourself everything is fine because the surface remains calm. This sense of being fine is a predatory lender, stealing your urgency and charging a high interest of regret. I am here to perform a total audit of your spirit, not to bankrupt you, but to release you from the liabilities you have mistaken for assets. You have lived in a state of postponement, a perpetual delay of your soul's IPO, waiting for a market condition that feels safe before you launch into your true purpose. But I tell you, the window of opportunity is closing not because I am hurried, but because the interest of your heart is being diverted into the distractions of a dying system. Your faith must be stress-tested, for a faith that has never navigated a bear market of the soul is merely a theory, a beautiful brochure for a building that has no structural integrity. I am not allowing the winds to blow to destroy your portfolio. I am allowing them to blow so that you realize what is truly liquid and what is merely frozen debt. You think I am slow in answering your petitions, but I am managing the supply chain of your blessings, ensuring that the vessel is sturdy enough to hold the weight of the glory I am preparing to pour. For to give a breakthrough to a broken heart would be to crush it under the weight of its own success. I see the intersections you missed, the mergers with darkness I quietly blocked, and the hostile takeovers of your mind that I neutralized before they could take deep root. You heard no explosion, so you assumed no war was fought. But I have been your silent defense secretary, negotiating peace in territories of your mind. You haven't even surveyed yet. You are not a random statistic in a demographic of existence. You are a sovereign priority in the kingdom of light, and the enemy fears your awakening more than any global collapse. Because your awakening is the catastrophic failure of his entire regime of fear, he has lobbied your mind with reasonable doubts, using the inflation of worry to devalue your hope, trying to keep you in a half-awake state where you are productive enough to serve the system but too tired to seek the source. But I am declaring a debt jubilee over your spirit today, an end to the cycles of generational poverty that have kept your bloodline in a cage of quiet endurance. You are being called out of the trance of habit, out of the repetitive motions of a life lived by reflex, and into a dimension of strategic awareness where every morning is a mandate and every breath is a mission. Consider the case of Saul, a man who held the highest office but lost his security clearance because he believed he could negotiate with the terms of my word. He attempted a spiritual arbitrage, trying to keep the best of what I told him to destroy while offering a sacrifice to cover the deficit of his obedience. He thought he could maintain the appearance of a leader while his inner character was in a state of default. But I tell you, I do not look at the balance sheets of your religious activities. I look at the transparency of your heart. Partial obedience is a toxic asset. It is a compromise that yields a short-term gain of human approval while creating a long-term liability of spiritual blindness. You cannot hedge your bets with the kingdom of heaven. You cannot serve the interests of your ego while claiming to represent the throne. Saul's downfall was not an overnight bankruptcy. It was a series of small, unrecorded compromises, a gradual erosion of his moral capital until he reached a point of total insolvency. Do not allow yourself to become a CEO of an empty palace. Do not trade your eternal legacy for the temporary leverage of a crowd that will turn on you the moment the market shifts. I am calling you to a radical transparency, a deep repentance that is not merely an apology, but a total restructuring of your priorities. You have grown accustomed to the dryness of your spirit and called it maturity. You have seen the lack of fire in your life and called it a stable economy. But I am here to disrupt your comfort, to send a shockwave through the systems of self-protection you have built. Because if I do not disturb your peace now, the storm will find you unprepared. Look at the city of Nineveh, a geopolitical powerhouse that was on the verge of a total liquidation. They were drowning in the corruption of their own success. Their moral deficit had reached a breaking point, and my warning was not an act of aggression, but a final offer of debt restructuring. Jonah did not come with a message of comfort. He came with a harsh audit, 40 days until the total collapse of the system. And what saved Nineveh was not their military defense or their economic reserves. It was their immediate, unanimous response to the call. They didn't form a committee to discuss the validity of the prophet. They didn't wait for a second opinion from the analysts. They humbled themselves from the throne to the dust, and that humility triggered a total reversal of the verdict. Your life is currently at a similar crossroads. The warnings I have been sending through the quiet unease in your spirit are the final notices before the closure of a season. You think you have more time because the lights are still on and the bills are still being paid. But the structural integrity of your soul is failing, and only a total return to the source can prevent the collapse. Do not be like those who ignored the signals of a market crash because they were too busy counting their paper wealth. Your true wealth is found in your sensitivity to my voice, your ability to discern the movement of the spirit over the noise of the headlines. I am training you to be an overcomer, not just a survivor. An overcomer does not merely withstand the storm. They utilize the winds to propel them into a higher altitude of authority. But you cannot carry the weight of authority if you are still entangled in the debts of your past. You must release the bitterness that is taxing your energy. You must forgive the debtors who have left you with an emotional deficit. For as long as you hold on to their failure, you are paying the interest on a debt you did not create. I am here to clear the ledger, to give you a fresh start, a clean sheet. But you must be willing to let go of the control you have used to protect yourself. For the very walls you built to keep the pain out are now the walls keeping my presence from fully entering. You are afraid of the vulnerability that comes with total surrender. You fear that if you let go of the wheel, the car will veer off the road. But I am the one who designed the road. I am the one who built the engine, and I am the one who knows the destination better than you know your own name. Your reasoning is a limited faculty. It can only project based on past data. But my word is a creative force. It brings into existence that which did not exist. It creates liquidity in the desert and pathways through the impossible. You have been trying to calculate your way into a miracle. But miracles are the dividend of trust, not the result of math. When I told Elijah to leave the brook, it made no economic sense. He was at a place of provision, a steady source of water in a time of drought. But the brook dried up because the season had shifted, and I was calling him to a partnership with a widow who was in a state of total poverty. Logic would say that a starving widow is the worst investment partner for a prophet. But in the economy of heaven, her willingness to give her last meal was the seed that unlocked a multi-year supply of oil and flour. She invested her total survival into a word of faith, and her return was the preservation of her household, while the rest of the nation was in a state of economic collapse. I am calling you to that same level of high risk, high reward. Faith, I am asking you to offer the last of your strength, the last of your pride, and the last of your control, and watch as I multiply it into a sustenance that the world cannot understand. You have lived in a state of spiritual scarcity for too long, thinking that if you give too much, you will have nothing left. But in my kingdom, the only way to keep anything is to give it away. The only way to find your life is to lose it for my sake. This is the paradox that breaks the back of the enemy's system, for he cannot control a person who is not afraid of losing anything. He cannot leverage fear against someone who has already surrendered their total inventory to the king. I am looking for those who will stand in the gap, those who will not be bought by the currency of this world, those who understand that the real power is not in the political halls of men, but in the secret place of the Most High. You are being prepared for a global role, a role that requires you to be unshakable when the systems of men begin to tremble, for they will tremble. The shaking is not a sign of my anger, it is a sign of my mercy, for everything that can be shaken must be shaken, so that only that which is unshakable remains. Your career, your social standing, and your physical health are all subject to the volatility of this realm. But your spirit is anchored in an eternal kingdom that has no deficit and no inflation. I am calling you to transfer your assets from the temporal to the eternal, to invest your time in the things that have an eternal yield. You have spent so much energy trying to maintain a facade of stability while your inner world is in a state of chaos. I am inviting you to stop the pretense, to come to me in your naked truth, and let me rebuild you from the cellular level. I am the great physician, but I am also the great architect, and I am here to perform a total renovation of your consciousness. I am stripping away the old wallpaper of your trauma, the rotted floorboards of your insecurities, and the faulty wiring of your generational fears. I am replacing it with the gold of my truth, the marble of my righteousness, and the light of my glory. You will not even recognize the person you used to be, for the old has passed away and the new is coming into full fruition. But you must stay in the process. Do not run when the construction gets loud. Do not flee when the dust makes it hard to see, for the end result will be a temple fit for a king. You are currently in a transition period, a space between the shores of who you were and who you are destined to become. This is the most dangerous part of the journey, for the temptation is to turn back when the waves get high, but there is no future in your past. There is only a slow decay. Forward is the only direction that leads to life. Even if forward looks like a storm, I am in the storm, I am the master of the storm, and I am calling you to walk on the water. You have been looking at the waves and calculating the depth of the ocean, but I am telling you to look at me and calculate the depth of my love, for my love is deeper than any ocean and stronger than any fear. You are not here by accident. You are here because you have been summoned to a higher court. The evidence against you has been wiped clean. The accusations have been dismissed, and you are being invited to sit at the table of the king. But you cannot sit at the table if you are still wearing the rags of a slave. You must put on the robes of a son. You must adopt the mindset of an heir. An heir does not beg for crumbs. They understand that the total resources of the estate belong to them. I am here to remind you of your inheritance, of the power that is available to you if you only believe. You have been operating at 5% of your potential, because you have been limited by the small thinking of your environment. I am here to expand your horizons, to give you a global vision, to make you a light in the darkness of this age. Do not shrink back. Do not play small, for you carry the seed of the Almighty within you, and that seed is destined to become a forest. You have been worried about the small details of your life, about the bills and the opinions of others. But I am calling you to seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added to you. For the one who feeds the birds of the air and clothes the lilies of the field is more than capable of managing your daily needs. Trust in the process, trust in the timing, and trust in the love that will never let you go. You are being refined like gold in the furnace, and the purpose of the heat is to bring the impurities to the surface so they can be skimmed away. Do not resist the heat, for it is the heat that makes you valuable. You are coming out as a pure vessel, a vessel of honor, ready for the Master's use. The world is waiting for you to awaken, for the creation groans in anticipation of the manifestation of the sons of God. You are that manifestation. You are the answer to the prayers of the broken. You are the light that will lead many to safety. But you must first find your own safety in me. You must first be anchored in the truth that you are mine, and nothing can pluck you out of my hand. Go forth today with a new confidence, not in yourself, but in the one who is working within you. For greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And there is no weapon formed against you that shall prosper, because your righteousness is of me, and your victory is already secured in the heavens. But do not assume the audit is over, for the ledger of your heart still holds secret accounts and hidden liens that must be liquidated before you can enter the inheritance of the stars, where the final cost of your soul will be weighed against the glory of a kingdom that is even now breaking through the cracks of your breaking world. Part 2. The Sovereign Assignment, Executing the Heavenly Mandate in a Collapsing Economy. Your physical body is a biological suit leased from the earth, and the landlord is coming to check the structural damage you've ignored while chasing paper wealth. Welcome back to Radiant Mercy. My beloved child, we have audited the foundations of your spirit, and now we must discuss the total evacuation of the old self and the high-stakes assignments that await you in the shadows of the modern Nineveh. You have lived for years under the jurisdiction of fear, paying taxes to a system of anxiety that has offered you zero return on investment. You have been a resident alien in a world that profits from your insecurities. But I am here to facilitate a radical change of citizenship. You are being called to a total liquidation of your egoic assets, for you cannot carry the furniture of your old life into the palace I have prepared for you. Look at the story of Lot's wife. She was physically evacuated from a collapsing city, but her heart was still invested in the real estate of Sodom. She looked back because her identity was still tied to her social standing and her physical possessions. And that single look back turned her into a monument of stagnation, a pillar of salt she became, a permanent part of the landscape she was supposed to escape. I am warning you today that looking back at the versions of yourself that I have already declared bankrupt will only paralyze your progress. You cannot negotiate with the ghosts of your past while I am trying to hand you the keys to a sovereign future. The evacuation I am calling you to is not a retreat. It is a strategic repositioning. I am moving you out of the range of the enemy's artillery, out of the reach of the generational patterns that have kept your bloodline in a state of emotional debt. You have spent too much time trying to fix a building that I have already condemned. Stop trying to renovate your old personality and let me give you a new one. A personality that is not reactive to the headlines but responsive to the spirit. You are being commissioned as a diplomat of the Kingdom of Light. And a diplomat does not worry about the inflation of the host country because their supply comes from the Home Office. You have diplomatic immunity against the plagues of the mind and the recessions of the soul. But you must stay in constant communication with the capital, for your authority is derived from your alignment with my word. If you act on your own behalf, you lose your immunity. But if you act on my behalf, The total resources of heaven are at your disposal. The shadows of Nineveh are falling over the global landscape, a darkness born of a society that has optimized its technology but lost its morality. People are drowning in information but starving for wisdom, and they are looking for a signal that is not part of the noise. You are that signal. You have been kept alive through the storms and the quiet dangers because you have a hidden assignment to the very people you once feared. You think your calling is for your own comfort. But I tell you, you are a supply chain for the broken, a lighthouse for those lost in the fog of the modern world. The true cost of your calling is the loss of your right to be ordinary. You can no longer afford the luxury of a shallow life. You can no longer waste your attention on the digital distractions that are designed to harvest your focus and leave you depleted. I am performing a leveraged buyout of your attention, for your attention is the most valuable currency you possess, and the world is in a constant bidding war for it. If you give your attention to the fear, you are financing your own destruction. But if you give your attention to me, you are investing in an eternal yield. Consider the ROI of total surrender. When you give me your nothing, I give you my everything. When you give me your weakness, I give you my strength. This is not a fair trade. It is a divine subsidy, but the ego hates this because it wants to earn its way. It wants to be the hero of its own story. But you must realize that you are not the hero. You are the vessel, and a vessel is only valuable when it is empty and available. I am emptying you of the opinions of others, the expectations of your culture, and the heavy requirements of your religious performance. I want you real, I want you raw, and I want you ready. For the days ahead will require a transparency that cannot be faked. The systems of the world are being stress-tested, and those who are built on the sand of human logic will see their structures crumble. But you are built on the rock, and the rock does not fear the rain. You have been worried about your career trajectory. But I am telling you that your career is merely a cover story for your true kingdom assignment. You are not just a manager or a creator or a worker. You are a strategic operative in a spiritual theater, and your work is to manifest. The light in the middle of the marketplace, you must learn to operate with a high level of spiritual SEO, optimizing your life so that the grace of God is the first thing people find when they encounter you. You have been focused on your click-through rate with the world. But I am looking at your conversion rate with the Spirit. How many of your thoughts are being converted into trust? How many of your anxieties are being converted into prayer? This is the internal economy that determines your external impact. You are being called to a radical authenticity, to step out from behind the filters of your digital and social masks, and to let the glory of God shine through your flaws. For my power is made perfect in weakness, and a cracked vessel lets more light out than a polished one. Do not be afraid of the shaking that is happening in your life right now. It is the demolition before the expansion. I am clearing the ground so that I can build something that can hold a global weight. You have been playing in the shallow water, but I am calling you into the deep, and the deep requires a different kind of anchor. You must be anchored in the Word, not just in your feelings. For feelings are as volatile as the crypto markets, but my word is as stable as eternity. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning of your journey and the guarantor of your finish. You have been looking for a sign to move forward, but the sign is the fire that is burning in your bones. The dissatisfaction you feel with the status quo is my invitation to the next dimension. Do not settle for a comfortable life when I have called you to a consequential life. The world does not need more successful people. It needs more awakened people. People who know who they are and whose they are. People who cannot be bought and who cannot be intimidated. You are part of an elite remnant, a group of believers who have been refined in the furnace of private struggles so that they can stand in public authority, your private air. Tears have been the liquid that polished your spiritual eyes, and now you see what others miss. You see the hand of God where others see chaos. You see opportunity where others see collapse. Go forth with this awareness that you are backed by the full faith and credit of the throne of heaven, and there is no deficit in my house, no shortage of grace, and no end to my love. The shadows of Nineveh are long, but the light within you is stronger, and you are being sent into the darkness to call the lost home. Do not fear the response, for it is not your words they are hearing. It is my voice through you. Stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused on the assignment. For the time is short, and the harvest is great, and you are the one I have chosen for this hour. Go forth and occupy until I come. For you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world, and your light shall not be hidden, but shall shine on a hill for all to see, and the glory of the later house shall be greater than thy. Former and peace shall be your border, and righteousness your walls. I am with you always, even unto the end of the age, and nothing shall by any means hurt you, because you are sealed with the promise of the Father and hidden in the hollow of my hand. Do not look back, for the path is ahead, and the glory is waiting, and I am the way, the truth, and the life. And in me you have already overcome the world. You have been trying to hedge against the future by hoarding the scraps of your own effort. But I tell you that the only hedge that holds is the blood that was shed for your ransom. The currency of the world is burning. The fiat of the flesh is devaluing. But the gold of the kingdom is being minted in the hearts of those who dare to believe. You are a shareholder in an eternal enterprise, and your dividends are peace, joy, and a power that the world cannot simulate. Do not be deceived by the temporary bull market of the enemy, for his bubble is about to burst, and those who have invested in his lies will find themselves in a state of total loss. But you, my beloved, are diversified in the spirit. You are invested in the eternal, and your portfolio is guarded by the host of heaven. The audit of the world is coming, but the audit of the Spirit has already found you justified, not by your works, but by your faith in the one who called you. Go forth as a conqueror, go forth as a son, and let the world see the difference that a total surrender makes. For you are no longer a slave to the cycle of debt and death. You are a master of the frequency of life, and your victory is the testimony that the kingdom is here, and the king is on the throne. And every knee shall bow, and every tongue confess that the grace that held you is the only power that can save the world. The assignment is heavy, but the yoke is easy. The burden is great, but the light is bright. Move now into the fullness of your calling, for the stars themselves are watching your response, and the heavens are cheering for your final irrevocable yes to the mission of the ages.